Hey everybody, I'm Stacey J.
And I'm Chuck Duran.
Welcome to another awesome episode of VOBZ Weekly.
That's right, and ladies and gentlemen, we have Fred Melamid on the show today. It's going to be a fabulous show, and you're going to love it.
Absolutely, he's wonderful.
Yes.
Before we go to Fred, though, we just wanted to say thank you to all of you who've donated so generously to help support VOBZ Weekly. It really means a lot, and we use every single penny to help bring you a better show every single week.
Absolutely.
So, those of you that are interested in donating that have asked us, you go to the support page on VOBZweekly.com and you can click donate there, a one-time donation or a recurring donation.
Absolutely.
Every penny is a penny that we can use.
Absolutely, and we really, really appreciate your support.
Thank you.
Thank you. Absolutely. Let's go talk to Fred right now.
Our guest has been working in voiceover, film and television, and theater for decades. His comedic chops shine in shows like Curb Your Enthusiasm and The Crazy Ones. He gives an Oscar-winning performance in A Serious Man and in the Lake Bell indie feature, In a World. He does it all, he does it brilliantly, and we are so ready to get buzzed with the incredible Fred Melamid.
Yes, indeed.
What a
Put it there.
florid, congratulatory introduction that is. Extremely kind of you. I
Well,
appreciate
it's all
it.
true.
Kind.
It's a pleasure to do it.
Thank
You are
you.
so talented, and it was such a joy
Yeah.
just to read about you and
Absolutely.
and you're a fellow New Yorker, so you know I
am.
It's nice to have another New Yorker out here in LA.
You notice
so.
we're both wearing black.
I know.
Yeah, I know. You guys are
The
always
old-
wearing black.
Yeah, the old joke.
It's a little
we're black.
warmer here than in New York right now.
It is, especially now, yeah. We
Yeah.
chose the right year to move out here.
Yeah.
We moved out here in May, my wife
Yeah.
and my two boys and I. After many, many years of being an actor and a voiceover guy in New York. It's a, we'll talk about this, I'm sure, at more
Of
length.
course, we
but
have questions for you.
It's a different thing
So
in
don't
New York,
answer
I'll tell you.
anything until we ask it.
Sorry.
And if
So bossy, Fred.
yeah, and if
true.
we forget to ask you something, then you can talk all you want.
Terrific.
All right. One of the cool things is that we met Fred for the first time in person a few months ago with,
Yes.
at our good friend Joe
Joe.
Cipriano's,
Mm-hmm.
and we had a chance to talk to you, and you were such a nice guy. You know, you guys can't tell this because
Well,
we're
but we've loved your work as well because we're huge Curb fans.
Absolutely.
And A Serious Man, I mean the whole thing. So then it was like, oh wow, you know, but then
We thought-
sometimes everybody doesn't translate.
No, we thought we were
in
going to
real
talk to
life,
Fred and go,
so-
"Hey, Fred," and he was going to be like, "Yeah, who are you?"
That's-
I don't want to talk to you. But he wasn't. You were so cool and so nice. And then we said, "Hey, man, we'd love to have you on our show." And he's like, "VOBZ Weekly, I know it well. I'd love to
I
be on the
know.
show."
Yes,
We're
I
like,
discovered it
wow.
and I enjoy it. I watch it. I see people that I've
Thank
never,
you.
people that I've heard but that I've never seen them and I've
Yeah.
never heard them talk about what they do. I find it really interesting. I really do.
So cool, man. Well, we know that you are unbelievably swamped. You're traveling all over the place, working all over the world. He is. Don't tell him. He'll tell you different, but it's true. And we know that you took time off to come here and share with us and all of them. So we really appreciate it. Thanks,
Yes,
man.
thank
It's my great pleasure, truly.
Beautiful, beautiful. So what do you say we get in there and start asking some questions
Let's
here?
go. Oh, he's picking up the card. When he picks up the
Reveal.
card,
We're going
Fred,
to
you're
reveal
in
your
trouble now.
life. Oh my God! So check this out. You're a classically trained actor by way of Hampshire College and Yale School of Drama, correct? How did you give us a little bit of that background? Then how did you find your way into voiceover?
How did I fall into the gutter?
How did you do that?
Well, I'll tell you the truth about that.
We want the truth.
I come from a sort of a showbiz background. My father was a TV producer in New York, and he produced very old shows that you're probably not old enough to remember. Like he produced a show called Car 54, Where Are You? It's an old-time comedy show, and the Sergeant Bilko show. These are the early days of TV when it was
Yeah.
a lot of TV was done in New York. So I was kind of around that growing up, and he had a few friends, close friends, who were announcers, and in those days they didn't say voiceovers.
Yeah.
There was a particular very close friend of his, this guy Kenneth Roberts, who was the father of Tony Roberts, the actor who you may
Okay,
know.
yeah.
Okay.
Who was in his day a very, very, very well-known announcer, and also became a voiceover man when that kind of transitioned. There was another guy called Joe Silver who lived on our street. He was an actor. He was the voice of Smokey the Bear and
Okay.
and Alan Swift, who you may know was
Yeah.
Fred Flintstone, a lot
Yeah,
of
yeah,
these
yeah.
guys. Anyway, so I knew people that were actors and some guys that did a lot of voices. So I knew about that. But I decided I wanted to be an actor. I went to Yale Drama School, as you said, and I had a strange sort of trajectory out of there. I went after I got out of Yale, which is 1981, that's a graduate program, so it's an MFA program after you're already out of college.
Yeah.
So in 81 I got out, and I went to a theater called the Guthrie, which is in Minnesota, and then I was on Broadway in Amadeus, the original old first American production of Amadeus.
Yeah.
And I was in that for a long time, for like on tour and on Broadway for like 16 months, a very long time.
Wow, that is a long tour. Yeah.
And midway through it, I started to get very, very severe stage fright.
Wow.
Very.
Just all of a sudden?
Well, pretty all of a sudden. I mean, I'd always had some degree of it. I mean,
Yeah.
all people do that perform to some
of
degree.
course.
But it went from that excitement place to that paralyzed kind of place?
Yes, it got so severe for me that it took, about halfway through the run, about 8 months into it, it took every ounce of courage and of discipline that I had to just get my ass to the theater.
Wow.
Seriously. And I began to feel very bad about it because, A, this was a play that I really liked.
Yeah.
And I had to resort to drugs and other things to just get myself through it. And I had, I had trained to be an actor. And, people said, don't be an actor. I'll show you. And there I was on Broadway. I had this gig on Broadway. And I couldn't handle an 8-show week. And I thought, this is awful. This is terrible. What am I going to do? I can't handle being an actor.
That is a lot of shows, though.
It is, but I mean, that's what I set
I think I might be stage fright there, too.
Well, but you'd think, some people in a long run relax.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
And they feel comfortable and they
you
get
got
very
more
creative.
into-
With me, I like the rehearsal. I love being in films. Films is like rehearsing.
Yeah.
When you rehearse, you discover things, you try things. There's a kind of a, I don't know, there's an ease to experimenting and trying things. For me, once the audience came in, this is just me.
Yeah.
For me, once the audience came in, that period, that way of looking at it became much harder to engineer. I had to be somewhat artificial about that.
Right.
So after that, and I said to myself, I have to finish this run. If I don't finish it,
Oh, yeah, then
I
you'll
will
really
never,
feel-
I'll
yeah.
feel like a complete,
That's not going to help, yeah.
it's horrible. So
Way to power through, Fred.
Right.
Yeah.
So I finished, and then I thought, oh my God, what am I going to do? What am I going to do?
Yeah.
And it so happened that I had an agent who was quite big in voiceovers, an agent called Harry Abrams,
Yeah.
who was all these years later
Yeah,
still
of course,
my
yeah.
agent.
Yeah.
So, and I was always told, people said to me, you have a nice voice. And while I was in college, I had a side job working at a classical radio station to make money. So I had some experience as a classical DJ,
Right.
but very limited.
Which is very, very mellow.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So by working in this classical radio station, I also learned a little bit about production.
Right.
And at that time, it was before digital, so it was all cutting tape and razor
gosh.
blades, all that stuff.
Yeah. Scary, scary stuff.
Right. Although at the time, it seemed okay.
Yeah. For me, that's stage fright.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
All that stuff.
Those razor blades.
So I knew about voiceovers, and I knew that if you were successful at them, it was very lucrative. There was a lot of money to be made.
Yeah.
So I said to my agent, I want to go and start doing voiceovers. And he said to me, well, let me tell you something. They don't want voices that are sonorous, beautiful voices. They want voices that cut through. That's what they want.
Right.
I said, well, just give me a chance. So he said, okay. So I started auditioning, and in those days, this is in New York, of course, there was no such thing as a home studio. You you schlepped around to the various ad agencies, and you did your auditions. So kind of right out of the box, within about a month of starting, I got a really big account. I got Conoco Oil, which at the time was a big oil company. And then within about a year, I got Mercedes-Benz.
Nice.
And I was a kid. I was only, when I say a kid, I mean I was maybe 26 or something.
You were a kid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was great.
Yeah.
He loved that.
That was great. But
Did they give you a free car?
they didn't, but actually I did stuff for a dealer, and I did work out a deal.
Okay, there you go.
I did stuff for dealers, and they gave me a great deal on my car. Not free, but.
That's fantastic. So
the
you
point
got
of
some
all
pretty
this-
big things right away.
I did
Yeah.
when I was, and I was lucky that I kind of got stuff right away.
Yeah.
As you've probably heard, as people at home have probably heard, there's kind of two main avenues that funnel people into voiceovers. One of them is coming from a radio background,
Sure.
like our mutual friend Joe Cipriano,
Yeah.
who was on the radio for years and years. Other friends of mine, Bill St. James, He's an East Coast guy. I don't know if you know him, Bill Sinchi. But other people,
Bo Weaver,
many
course,
people.
yeah.
And then there are other people that come from the acting sort of side of things, like
Right.
me, other people.
Exactly.
Anyway, so I started making, you know, significant money for a young. I was not married. I had no responsibilities. It was, you know, it was great. But I lost my desire to compete as an actor, especially since I had had this, you know, very tough experience.
Yeah.
And I just continued to do that, and kind of, there were a couple of casting directors. There's one particular woman called Julia Taylor, who was Woody Allen's casting director,
Yeah.
who liked me. And if a movie would come up, I wouldn't audition. I did 7 Woody Allen films. So she would just say, well, Woody has a thing. He wants you to play a psychiatrist. Are you interested? It's 4 days.
Yeah.
So I'd say, yeah, great. As long as I wouldn't have to audition, it was a gimme. It was an offer, a straight offer. So I continued to do a little bit of stuff like that. I got spoiled.
Well, I was going to say
You are a
little
spoiled brat.
A little pampered, Fred.
Yes.
But
My
that's
goodness
okay.
gracious.
But I paid a significant price.
You
Yes.
did. You did.
Well, we
Even
didn't want
though-
you stressed out, so this is good. This is good.
It was, but that continued. I continued to do nothing but voiceovers with an occasional parenthetic appearance in a Woody Allen film or another, but small little things, for 20 years.
Wow.
For a long time.
Yeah.
And I sort of spread out a little bit in the voiceover world. In New York, where I'm from, it's a much narrower field than it is here in California.
Yeah.
All the television production, not all, but the vast majority of entertainment television production is done here, as are movie trailers.
Yeah.
Really, the only stuff that's done in New York is advertising, that is commercials, both radio and TV commercials, and then promos, but only promos that cover news and sports, which tend to be headquartered in New York.
Yeah.
So all the entertainment promos, which is the vast bulk of what's done in the promo world, is done here in California. So it was a much more defined, smaller pool of work, and a smaller pool of people that did most of the work in New York.
Exactly.
So, and I came at it as an actor, trying to kind of always not violate the boundaries of what's real in what I did.
Yeah.
So I wasn't a person, I would, you know, not do a lot of characters sometimes, but usually things closer to a real person.
To what? Yeah. To your
But
own.
to a real person with a kind of authority, or a kind
Yeah.
of, you know, a person with a certain style that suited my voice.
Yeah.
And that went on for, you know, many, many years.
Yeah.
And just to sort of come to the end of this, I wound up getting married rather late. I got married at 46, then I had 42, and then I had children at 46. And right after I had children, there was a very massive shift in the voiceover world, at least in New York, and probably here too, where they started wanting real people.
Yep.
And I haven't sounded like a real...
Not that you weren't a real person.
Not a real
I haven't
person
been a
at
real
all.
person in 20 years.
Right.
Now you have to be a real
since I was
person.
8 years old.
Yeah.
Haven't been real. So, and because I had been a fairly visible player in the world of voiceovers for many years, all of a sudden I found myself like on the sideline very, very much.
Wow.
And then by that time,
Yeah.
I had kids.
Yeah.
I had, you know, a whole different
Yeah.
view of things.
Yeah.
And I thought, oh my God, this is horrible. You know, here.
Yeah.
And prior to that, I had been the voice of. For 7 years, I was the voice of CBS Sports. I did
You were
the
the
Olympics.
Olympics,
I did the Super Bowl, all that stuff.
Yeah.
And unlike advertising, that's a guaranteed amount of work.
Yeah.
I had that job at CBS for, you know, quite a long time. And human nature is you think it's going to go on forever.
Yeah.
Never. At least in my experience.
Yeah.
So there I was, suddenly with almost no income and 2 little kids, and one of them was, and with autism and very serious stuff. And, you know, like, what am I going to do?
Yeah.
And about 6 months into that, I get a call. I'm at home. I lived in Montauk, New York, which is out in the east end of Long Island.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting home with my wife, and my wife answers the phone, and she says to me, "Do you know what Joel Coen?"
Oh.
I'm thinking, like, Joel Coen, is that like it sounds like an accountant. Joel Coen. I said, Joel Coen from Joel and Ethan Coen, the Coen brothers, Joel Coen?
Yeah.
Yes. Well, and I knew them a little bit because I'd gone to school with Fran McDormand and John Turturro and all those guys that were sort of part of their retinue. So I said, yeah. So it was Joel. He said, hi, Fred, how are you? "Oh, good." He said, we've written this film, and there's a part in this film. This film is called A Serious Man, and there's a part in it. We just have a feeling that you'd be very good in this part. Are you interested? was like, let me look in my book.
Let me see.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'll be right over.
Well, let me tell you something, Cy Abelman. I
Right.
mean, come on.
So that was a
Stunning
very,
performance, my
Thank
gosh.
you.
Yeah.
That was such a great experience. But anyway, that brought me back into being a regular actor again. And I was 52 years old when that happened. So I've had a strange, checkered career.
You have, man.
You've had this nice tangent, and so. But when you're doing film and television, do you feel it's relaxed? Yeah, you don't have.
Yes, I don't feel. I partly because I'm older, and partly because I've gotten to the point where I view it differently.
Right.
I don't view people as judging me. I view it as a piece of work, and sometimes it's better, and sometimes it's. I mean, I care very much about it.
Right.
Sure.
But it's a piece of work, and it can be changed, and it's not me. It's something that I do,
Yeah.
and things can always be altered.
Right.
So
right.
I try not to get into the thing of feeling like it's this desperate representation of me that then they're going to pass judgment on.
Exactly.
And if you do it enough,
Yeah.
you become somewhat not hardened, but inured to that kind of sensitivity, at least for me.
Yeah.
With voiceovers, one of the great things about voiceovers, from my point of view, was I always felt very free behind a mic because there's no visual representation of you. You could be anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You could be handsome, romantic guy.
Yeah.
You could be a evil character.
Yep.
So to be honest with you, I've never been thrilled with the way that I looked.
Oh.
Well, I
You're
mean,
very
it's the truth.
handsome.
Well, that's kind of you to say. But, if you're an actor,
Yeah.
you sort of have to make peace with that one way or the other. So I always liked the freedom that you get from being a voice actor.
Right.
And it's interesting. I never had a great mimical ability. I can do some voices, but I don't have a great ability to do that. I have friends, guys you probably like Toby who I'm sure you know, and other people who can do that and also can create great characters. But to me, the really magic people are not just mimics, they have the ability to create new characters. I mean,
it's
that is
definitely,
extremely impressive to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, if you think of the Mel Blanc days,
Oh gosh.
all those characters,
From one guy.
but not only that, none of them were imitative. Those are all
No,
things that
those
he
were
made
original,
up.
yeah,
9,000
exactly.
people can now do very solid imitations of those characters.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
he made them up.
I know.
Yeah.
And such a great, really, really
Well, I
fantastic.
think that's interesting, because especially in Los Angeles, you always get that female perspective of, the industry isn't kind, the on-camera industry isn't kind to women after a certain age or a certain body type.
Yep.
So I think it's interesting to hear from a men's perspective.
I do think that's true, and I think, frankly, as is discussed in the film that you mentioned, In a World, it's not particularly kind to women either.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's tough to be a woman in either milieu, honestly.
In the world, too!
Yeah.
I think there's a certain truth to that.
Yeah.
But kind of know that going into it, you just have to deal with it however you do.
Yeah.
And I mean, especially as a dancer, I have many friends that started.
You're never
out,
good enough. You're like, hi. Oh, okay.
Yeah, and they've had
I'll
to-
go back and try it. Yeah, you're always having to find your inner strength because
Absolutely.
it makes the
Everybody's
entertainment business
crushing you
seem
down.
kind and lovely.
Absolutely.
In
Yeah,
comparison.
no, it's very, very, very
Yeah.
tough. And many friends of mine who are still, by my standards, very able, very young, very beautiful, have had to invent second careers and second lives for themselves because of the way it is.
Yeah.
It's just part of it.
So let me ask you something. You still audition for voiceover jobs, correct?
I do.
So, because you're a thinker, and I can already tell that you're a thinker. So when you get an audition, I mean, now you have a home studio. You have the luxury of auditioning at your own home.
I've had one for 20 years. I was the first guy on
I
the East
know,
Coast
but
to have
which
one.
is really cool, right? Because in the old days, you couldn't do that. Now it's like, oh yeah, I'll just walk over here.
Right.
But when you do get an audition, what's your breakdown? Like, what do you do? Do you overlook at it? Do you read all the direction 50 times before you go in and read it, or do you not think about it and just do it?
You mean the spec, the direction?
Yeah.
I always read it, and I decide. I do my best to take it into account, but I don't necessarily completely let it dominate what I do.
Okay, good.
I still try and give them something. There's a great quote from Chekhov who said, you have to bring the people to Gogol. You can't bring Gogol down to the people. You have to, and very often, especially in advertising or promotion, people have an idea, but they don't know exactly what they want. They have kind of an amorphous idea.
Yeah.
And then they'll hear somebody and they'll go, that's what I want.
Exactly.
So what I try and do is always, and this applies to auditioning of every stripe, auditioning both in acting and for voiceovers, make a very clear, specific choice about what I'm going to do, stick to it fully, and evaluate it based on how fully I did it, plus the other technical considerations you have to worry about.
Yeah.
And then hope for the best. But if you give them something strong, if it's not perfectly right, it'll be right for something else.
Yeah.
And they'll say, well, there's a guy that has a sound that has, see, one of the things that I believe in, especially for people that may be new to this, that isn't stressed enough, I think, in the lessons that people get is, it's very important to educate your ear.
Your ear,
Not just your ability to produce sound. What I mean by that is to listen critically to stuff. Like when I used to work with students, I taught in New York at a college. I would tell them, get a VCR or a DVR and record 15 or 20 hours of television, cable television and network television, and do the opposite of what people ordinarily do, which is fast forward through the shows and listen to commercials and the promos.
Absolutely.
Right.
And listen to what styles, not what styles you think you can do.
No.
But what are the ones that like get to you?
Yeah.
Television is noise. We tune it out. We're accustomed. It's noise. Everybody wants to tune it out. But once in a while, somebody's style breaks through.
Absolutely.
So, and of course, it's different for different people. Why? Why does somebody somehow get to you?
Yeah.
Sometimes there's a reality to it that seems more vital. Sometimes there's a drama to it. Sometimes there's something else to it. Now, of course, they have to do that in concert with whatever the person wrote.
Right.
The writing has to suit that. But my way of looking at it is, okay, I'll get a script, I'll get a spec, and read it, and then I make a decision about how I want to do it. And my attitude is that there's a subtextual message in every commercial. In other words, the words say what they say.
Yeah.
And I didn't write them, somebody else did. But within that, beneath that, there's a message that I'm imparting, and that's up to me.
Right.
And I try and be as clear in my own head and as real and thoroughgoing with that as I can.
Yeah.
And sometimes what I chose doesn't work very well. It doesn't mesh with the thing that's written well. And then I try something else. If it does, so I don't try not to get too married to it.
Yeah.
But sometimes I'll choose a different thing and that will work great. I'll give you an example. There used to be a commercial on television for Dove bars. Remember Dove bars? Those chocolate bars?
Of course.
And
Delicious Dove bars.
Right. And it was a very simple copy. The visual was they showed you a piece of ice cream on a stick and this very luxurious, sensuous looking chocolate, liquid chocolate was being poured over it.
Right.
And I think Kathleen Turner, the actress, was the voice that they used. This is like 15 years ago.
I think so.
And I can't remember exactly what the copy was, but it was something very, very simple, about Dev bars.
Yeah.
But the message was, and I remember it clearly, that you got was, whatever else is going on in your life, your children are screaming, you lost your job, whatever else is going on in your life, this 10 minutes that it takes you to eat this Dove bar, or 3 minutes if you're me, this time will be perfect.
Yeah.
This time there will be nothing in your consciousness that will get in the way.
Yeah.
Whatever else is going on, you can count on this product to make life worth living.
Yeah.
Now, you might say that that's a sick message.
No, but that is the message.
But that is the message.
Yeah, that is the message.
That is chocolate's
Right.
message.
So that's what I would. That's the way that I would approach. Okay, so here's my script. Here are the words. Now, what's my message beneath the words?
That's very good.
Yeah.
Nobody's ever really
That's very
hit
cool.
that little area
Yeah.
there, which is so true. So true. Very
Well, but
cool.
I mean, you're a writer also.
Yeah.
So in addition to your amazing acting career, clearly you're bringing your acting chops, your writing chops into your voiceover career, wouldn't you say? I mean, it's sort of layered in there.
Yeah, I have an appreciation I have an enjoyment. I mean, some
Does it
people
help
enjoy
having that background?
I think on one hand it can make you a little pompous and want to start correcting everybody.
Yeah.
But the other side is if you dig the words, if you have, you get a pleasure. It's like music.
Yeah.
You get a pleasure from them. And then, that part of it's good.
Yeah.
But then sometimes there are things that bother you if things are written poorly. Sometimes things can be written grammatically okay, but they're not pleasing to the ear.
Like no one would talk like that. Yeah.
But it's a cooperative thing, so you do the best you can. But the important thing that I think of to myself is be clear in what the subtextual message is, and then rip. The late great Philip Seymour Hoffman said, everybody knows that if you're a good actor, you have to commit fully.
Yeah.
Question is, commit to what?
Commit to what?
That's the
You
question.
need to find the thing that you need to commit to.
Right. But then my attitude is as an actor, when the red light is on, wail. That's it. And when I say wail, I don't mean go crazy. I mean be full.
Yeah. Yeah.
Be full.
Good. I
Full.
like that.
So Fred, we want to talk about the wonderful film, your Lake Bell's award-winning film, In a World. Now, how did you get involved with the project?
It was a lucky thing that I backed into. I was in New York, and my agent said, do you know who Lake Bell is? And I said, well, I know her name. I said, oh yeah, I have kids and they watch Children's Hospital. Oh, I know who she is, yes.
Yeah.
So he said, well, Lake Bell came to my office, this is in New York, and dropped off a script for you, and she wrote a handwritten note to you. So I said, really? So he said, yeah. So I came to his office and I picked it up and I read it, and this note was a beautiful handwritten note saying, I don't know if you know who I am, but my name is Lake Bell. I've written this script and there's a part in it, the part of my father, which you can read, and I just have this feeling that you'd be wonderful in this part. Please consider it, and if you would consider it, let me know, and let me know what you think of the script.
Right.
And I read it, and I couldn't believe how good I thought it was, especially because she was like 30 years old at the time. Because she wrote it, she was 28.
Yeah.
I thought it was such a beautiful script, and it happened to be about a world, that is the world of voiceover artists, that was a familiar world to me.
Was she aware of that?
No.
So that's cool.
See, that's great.
So I had my agent call her and said, listen, I really liked it. And so she said, okay, well, I'm going to be in New York. She was living here in California. She said, I'm going to come to New York. So let's meet at Soho House, which is this New York one.
Right.
And we'll have lunch and we'll talk about it. So we were talking and she said, I'm so glad you liked it and we're getting ready. And this was in like October. And she said, I'm going to hopefully start shooting in February or March.
Yeah.
But I said to her, we were talking like a half an hour.
Yeah.
And I said, you know that I'm a voiceover artist, right? She said, no.
Wow.
I said, yeah. I spent 20 years doing nothing but that. She said, really? I said, yeah. She said, I just thought you had a beautiful voice and your voice, you would be believable as a voiceover artist, but I had no idea that you actually did it.
Yeah.
I said, oh yeah.
Yeah.
And
that was a huge bonus, yeah.
Well, it was, for me, it was, I thought it was so funny. I thought that's why she chose me.
Yeah.
And she said, no, I chose you because I thought, I liked your acting. I had seen you in the Coen Brothers movie and some other things. And, and what a great part, man.
What a great movie.
Your part, you play the role of Sam, her father.
Yeah.
Do you think is possible to like him? Do you think he's likable?
People are different about that. To me,
because I've heard differing. People are like, but I think
he's certainly not a good father. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah, he's not a good father.
He is not a good father.
Yeah.
But I have known. First of all, if you have children, and I have children, and I love my children dearly.
Yeah.
But it's a constant struggle between my own selfishness and all the things that I want to do.
Yeah.
Right.
And doing the things that my children need me to do and want me to do.
Yeah.
And especially in our business, where there's an awful lot of me-ism, it's just built into it.
Yeah.
There are a lot of people who don't handle that tug too well.
Right.
And there are a lot of people, and I've said this before publicly, so I'm not saying anything, strange, but the bigger the money is, the more people look over their shoulders and are thinking like, well, this is all going to vanish someday. Somebody will be better than me, and how do I keep up my, and it's just part of it.
Yeah.
When there's light work and big money, it builds superstitiousness and suspiciousness and all that into it. So my character, who's Lake Bell's father in the movie, is one of those people who has always had a kind of a big career, but he's never been the guy.
The guy.
Right. The guy, as everybody, the guy, the late
Right.
great guy, as everybody knows, Don LaFontaine.
Exactly.
And he always lived in Don LaFontaine. He's Don LaFontaine light.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah, he lived in the shadows of Don.
Right.
Yes.
So when Don finally passes on, he gets his chance to step up right? And he's not, it's not like Ashton Smith where he's this new, younger guy.
Yeah.
He's kind of in the Don LaFontaine bag, and he's an older guy. So he's finally getting his chance to shine a little bit and all that. And then comes, you know, some competitors, and he says, okay, well, I'm just going to retire at the top. But then his daughter, who he's discouraged all her life, because he's the kind of person he is, is in the running. Yeah. And he finds that so threatening that he has to prove that he can top her.
Well, we're going to show a little clip from the trailer of In a World, so
Absolutely.
check this out.
Let's face it, the industry does not crave a female sound.
Yeah, God, you've made me painfully aware of that my whole life.
Not being sexist, that's just the truth. You should stick with the accents. That's what you're good at. What was that Russian Star Wars thing you used to do as a kid?
Yeah, I know the one you're talking about.
Please, let me hear it.
These are not the droids you're looking for.
I just love that. It's so random.
Wow, that's cool, man.
But really, the big question is, what was it like for you to work with the newest movie star in the business, which is, of course, Joe Cipriano? I mean,
Joe Cipriano.
We went to a screening with he and Ann, and I can't decide which I enjoyed more. Watching the movie was wonderful, and then watching Joe watching the movie.
Watching Joe watching the movie.
Going like,
he saw it like
this is my last
58
chance
times.
to be in a movie. I have to go. It was so adorable.
Hi, Joey.
Hi,
He's
Joe.
out there.
We
He's
love you.
watching this right
But
now.
it was so
Absolutely,
funny,
without
but
a doubt. But yeah, he's watched the movie about 80 times.
Oh my gosh.
And we kept saying, Joe, how come you've seen the movie so many times? He's like, this may be the last time I ever see myself on film. It's like, it was so funny.
Well, you can't blame him. I mean, first of all, he's very good in it, in my estimation.
Yes,
he was fantastic.
Very good.
And although he's at the top of the heap in the thing that he does, he's always kind of shilling for somebody else. So here he got his chance to really step up and be, you know, the main guy. So I can't, and I must say, he's very gracious about everything.
He really is.
He is.
What a super
He's
guy.
a great guy.
Yeah, and by the way, if anybody out there has not seen the movie In a World, you are doing yourself a huge disservice.
You can get it on DVD and Blu-ray on Amazon. You can get it on iTunes, and also you can go to inaworldmovie.com and you can get lots more information about the film. But it's a wonderful, because it's so much about family too, which I loved, and just, you know, the relationships and the highs and the lows. And I just thought, I mean, she's really done a beautiful job.
I'll tell you a funny thing about that. When we were making it, she was interested, Lake was interested in the world of voiceover because when she went to drama school in England, and then she immediately came to California. And she thought, well, I won't have to wait tables because I have this great voice, and I'll sort of get to move to the head of the voiceover industry. And she found out in short order that it doesn't really work like that. That in fact, the business is set up to keep outsiders out. That's really the way it is. So she found that peculiar and sort of punishing. So she became obsessed with kind of getting to the top of it. And competing with people and all that stuff. And she's very, very, she has a cute sort of perceptive ability when it comes to accents and sounds.
She does.
Like that. She's really good.
It was great. The whole it's a great movie.
Well, that's all we got for part 1 with Fred Melamed. Be sure to tune in next week for part 2.
And keep up with us on Facebook, Twitter, and Pinterest at VOBZ Weekly. Take care, everybody, and just remember, you always have time for a little buzz.